Well, many of you have been wanting to know what in the world ever happened to the boat. You know, if you ain't heard the story, you can go back and watch it. But basically, Lem sunk my boat in about 20 foot of water in the middle of the lake. Well, a couple days later, old Lem called me up. He said, "Hey, Robert, let's go get your boat off the bottom of that lake." I said, "Lem, son, I ain't got no way to do that." I said, "I've called several fellers to come and do it. They all gonna charge me more than I paid for the boat to start with." He said, "I think we can get it. Just come on by there and pick me up at Mama's house, and we'll go get it." He said, bring your boat trailer and bring your canoe." Well, that old $20 canoe ain't too seaworthy. I said, "All right, Lem, I ain't got nothing better to do." So I stopped by Lem's mama's house. He come out there with an armload of scuba gear. Now, what you may not know about Lem Parsons is that many years back, he took some courses on becoming an underwater welder. He's going to weld on boats and stuff down underneath the water. And he'd probably been pretty good at it too, but there was an accident that occurred with his instructor. Well, after the accident with the instructor, and they got done with all the funeral and the investigation and all, well, old Lem, he just couldn't go back to it. It wasn't the going underwater, and it wasn't even the welding that was the problem. It was the smell. He just couldn't get that smell of that old, well, you know what I'm talking about. He couldn't get that smell out of his mind. He said, "Robert, it just smelled like barbecue, and I can't hardly go back." So anyway, old Lem come out there with his scuba gear. He threw it in the back of the truck. He said, "Hang on, I'll be right back." He run back in the garage, and in there in the garage, he had an old lawnmower that he'd fixed up, took the blade off of it, fixed her up with an air compressor. I don't know why in the world he ever needed a mobile air compressor that ran off a gasoline engine, but that's what he had. And so he brought it out there, and we loaded it in the truck. He said, "Hang on one more second." He ran back in there, come out with 4 tractor tire inner tubes. I said, "Lem, I don't know what you got up your sleeve, but you got me a little bit worried, son." He said, "That's all right. We'll get it. We'll get it, Robert." So we went out there to the lake. Lem, well, he forgot to bring any swimming trunks. I'm not even sure he owned any. But he had his old blue jean overalls on, so he just slipped them off. All he had on them was a pair of boxer shorts. I don't think they'd been washed in a month. He said, "It's all right, Robert. We ain't going to see nobody out here." I said, "All right, Lem." So we threw that old air compressor in that canoe, and we took off out across that lake. We just barely drafting above the water. When we finally got out there, about where he thought the boat had gone under, and he put his scuba gear on. Looked like an old James Bond movie. Had one of them round masks, you know, and the old black hoses and such. He dove off in the water, nothing but that scuba gear and his boxer shorts. He come back up in about 2 minutes, said, "I found it, Robert. It's right here." So I throwed out an anchor rope with an anchor on it. Crawled up there to the front of the canoe, and very delicately started up that old lawnmower air compressor. Well, Lem took off down to the bottom with them old uninflated tractor tire inner tubes. Took the hose down there with him and a whole bunch of yellow rope. Well, he's down there, and there's bubbles coming up like a boiling pot of water. I figured as long as there's bubbles coming up, he must be alive. And lo and behold, and to this day, I still don't understand this part of it, but that old boat come a-floating to the top. Looked like a whale about to breach in the Bay of Alaska or something. That old thing come a-floating up to the surface. Bubbles went everywhere. And right behind it, here come old Lem, just smiling from one side of his little breathing mask thing to the other. I said, "Lem Parsons, son, if your instructor was alive to see this, he'd sure be proud of you." I'll tell you more about it later, all right?